Hi, my name is Laurie Wolff. I'm a certified global business professional. I'm an academic economist, and I have experience with the pet industry over the last 15 years, both on the retail side and on the manufacturing side. And so I'm really excited today to talk to you about the hidden power of pricing. Have taught something like 30,000 students over the last 30 years, all the basics of economics. They're not super interested in this, but I'm pretty positive that retailers are much more interested than your typical undergraduate student, because it really matters for your bottom line, and it really is something that you can use as a tool in your kit to make more money for your store. So I want to first talk to you about some insights from behavioral economics, and then from what you'll often hear talked in the financial press about is pricing power, but it's really about this concept called elasticity of demand, and then also about the relationships between the price of one product and other products, such as substitutes and complements. So we're going to go over that. And then at the end, we'll put it together sort of in some lessons learned. I think one of the things I would be particularly interested in over this next year is if you try any of these things, follow up with me and let me know how it goes. This could easily be a much more expansive session than what we're going to be able to do in 40 minutes. And so I kind of look forward to having future conversations about pricing with you. So behavioral economics has won the Nobel Prize, but what is it really? And so behavioral economics looks at, it's a combination of economics and psychology. And so economics says people are these rational beings and they make all decisions based on weighing the benefits of the cost, and we carefully think about everything, and that's how we decide stuff. And it works out that it's not true. In lots and lots of circumstances, that's not how we make decisions. Partly maybe because we're lazy, we don't want to do the math, we don't want to do the calculation, partly because there's just too much information coming at us, but there's just lots of reasons why we're finding that people don't behave rationally. But there happens to be patterns in their error. So they may not be making decisions the way that we think they're making decisions, but the way they're making decisions has a pattern to it. And so we can still predict things that people are going to do. And that's the real insight of behavioral economics. So one of the interesting insights from behavioral economics, and they've done studies. So you would think that if I was gonna make some money in a situation and my other choice would be to not make some money in a situation, that I would always choose to make the money rather than not make the money. I would clearly be better off. But they've done experiment after experiment after experiment and found that people would reject things where they make money because their perception is that it's not fair. And I could give lots of examples of this, but the implications are that people do have a bias toward fairness, both on the selling and the buying side. And that's something that you could potentially take advantage of. But it's less of a bias the more dollars are at stake. And so wanting a fair outcome that's sort of equitable is, a little easier to do if you're talking about tens of dollars than hundreds of dollars. When we get up to that millions of dollars level, then people start to be more like the rational machines that economists kind of predict. So how could you use this fairness thing? Well, the whole concept of customer loyalty, and that I'm invested in the community, and that I'm an employer, and that, we're walking with you and we care about your pets and we know you and we're celebrating birthdays, all of that does speak, I think, right now to consumers in the sense of fairness. We know the pandemic has hurt retailers in a way that hasn't hurt other people. We know, that we need these businesses and these activities in our community. So I think that you can, and this isn't, this is not taking advantage of something, but that fairness is something you should work. You should be talking about yourself in terms of small business. You should be talking about yourself as an employer. You should be talking about yourself, as a vested member of the community, because that is something that will make people say, oh, well, I'd be willing to pay more to make sure that that happens because it's fair. The internet doesn't do that. These people do that. They're worth paying more for. I think that's a really important positioning thing for you to think about. So the next thing, the insight from behavioral economics that's super important is framing. So framing shouldn't affect the outcome. So it shouldn't matter if a choice is A, B, or C, which one I pick. If I pick ABC, BCA, CB, whatever, it shouldn't make a difference. They're the same choices, and the one I like the best should be the choice that I like. It turns out that that's not true at all. It isn't true that given three choices, we don't necessarily always pick the same one, because it depends on how the choices are framed. And so framing is like this other stuff, this other set of information that's coming at you that makes you perceive things differently. So how do we frame it? So let's look at a couple of options. So the first one, so odd pricing, I think, is the one that retailers most know about, or that we recognize as consumers, that we see odd pricing all the time. Anchoring is about getting this piece of irrelevant information before you get the piece of information that then affects your decision. And then status quo bias is kind of what it sounds like. People like to maintain the status quo. Those are three insights. So they're all about framing. They're all about framing, but they're three sort of distinct different insights. And so odd pricing is that we're left digit bias. In the West, we read from left to right. That first digit we see affects our decision. So that being, it's going to be read to me as an 8. Even though it's a 9, it's going to be read to me as an 8. And I think that almost everyone knows this, but you may, when you walk around your store, not be taking full advantage of this. So we'll kind of explore that in a second. Anchoring is that you have this piece of what would seem to be irrelevant information, and that is going to affect the decision that you actually make. And it's because when we make decisions relative to each other. So it's a choice to do this or that. It's between the two that I'm making a decision. So it's not just a choice that's in isolation by itself. And quality can definitely make a difference in our perceived value. So if we have information about the quality of the product before we know what its price point is. So like we're given this information about it's completely all natural, it's all organic, it's been manufactured in a cage-free process, whatever kinds of things that would be relevant to that decision. If we know that information before we see the price, we will assign mentally a higher price point to that and be more willing to pay a higher price than if we get this information after we've seen the price. So having this information about quality can matter. And it is, if you in your store have multiple items at multiple price points, it is easier to get people to move down from the super premium one to say, well, this has most of the same features, but it's more affordable. It's easier to do that than it is to get them to move up. So getting them to move up is harder. Getting to move down, having that super premium as a relative thing makes this one look like a bargain. And so that's really important. And we'll talk a lot about relative price in this session. So my big suggestion to you from anchoring is to bring in some aspirant things that you don't plan to sell much of. A super premium collar, a super premium cage, a super premium pet food, that it's not your goal to sell lots of units of that. You might sell it occasionally, but that it's there gives you something to sell against. It makes your regular one look more affordable. So that would be something to consider from anchoring. And I just added this. So when you're deciding like which one you want to sell, you want to obviously sell this one that's higher margin. So where you position it is going to affect what people do. So if I'm going out to lunch, I'm going on a date and I'm going to buy wine, I'm not going to want to buy the cheapest one because that'll make me look bad, right? So I look at the wine list and I move myself up from the cheapest and I look for something sort of in that set of wine that's not the cheapest on the menu, but that, that looks like what I feel comfortable buying. Well, the reality is wine places can set their wine list. So those are high margin wines that actually that really cheap wine might be a low margin wine, but it's there only to get you to move up to that next one. So I've heard from wine writers that this is true. I don't know if it actually is, but maybe buying the cheapest is the real value, even though you look bad. All right, so status quo bias is that we really like to maintain the status quo. We get irritated and we will, even for small changes in the status quo, sometimes change our behavior. So what I worry about specifically is your very loyal purchasers of a dog food. And they buy from you all the time regularly, and you could substitute another product. But we know that dog is most of the market in pet retail, and dog food is that thing that people are going to try to keep their dog on. And you're in your channel to get people feeding their dogs better food. And so that is something I expect. So you've got this loyal person. They do absolutely know the price of that product because they buy it from you all the time. So they know what that price is. They're very, very aware of it. They're very aware of price changes. And if you raise the price, that could be the thing, even though it's small and even though your costs have gone up, et cetera, if you raise that price, that could be the thing that makes them go and then look for someplace else, that they get irritated. So you want to be careful about protecting those customers. Now you have a whole bunch of customers that aren't regular, that aren't as aware of pricing, that are only occasional, and it is perfectly fine to do things that are going to, affect their behavior positively and negatively. I think that set of people you can have different ideas about, but I think you need to, as you're considering experiments with pricing, as you're looking at cost changes, figure out how can you protect those customers that are those best loyal ones that are going to want to maintain the status quo because they've been feeding this dog food, for all of these years. So now I'm going to switch from behavioral economics topics to price elasticity of demand. So the idea of demand is that at high prices, people buy less. At low prices, people buy more. I think everybody kind of knows that. But the idea of elasticity is going to get us into how much more do they buy. When you have a sale, do you sell 50% more or do you only sell 5% more? When you increase your prices, do you lose half your customers or just 10%? So that's what elasticity is about, is how responsive, quantity demanded is to a specific change in price. And there are various factors that can affect elasticity. And so one of the ones that's really important is substitutes. So how many substitutes are available for your product is going to make a difference in how responsive people are to price changes. Another thing is about whether it is a necessity or a luxury. So we know that people have to pay their electric bills and they have to buy their medicine and things like that would be labeled sort of necessities. And other things are discretionary. So whether you do this or you don't might depend on what the price is. If it's on sale, I'll do it. If it's not on sale, I won't do it. And then finally, that we know that price changes are significant also in terms of how they relate to our budgets. So if I thought I was going to save $500 on a car might be $15,000 or more, but $500 is enough money that might actually affect my behavior. So when you look at those discounts on the big giant trucks that you see, 6,000, 8,000, 10,000, that's a pretty small price change on those big trucks. But people look at it and they go, wow, that's $6,000. So if a price change is large relative to our budget, so that it's a bigger dollar one, we're going to be much more sensitive to price changes than if it's a teeny tiny thing that's 50 cents or $1. We're not particularly going to pay attention to that. So another insight about elasticity is about time. Temporary changes have bigger reactions. So if you have a low price and in order to take advantage of it, people have to move their behavior and buy it now, they will. And if you, for whatever reason, have some sort of a disruption and you have to have a high price right now, if they can wait and buy it later, they will. So people will respond to price changes if it changes their expectations about what's the right time to buy. And so there may be messages we give them that say, hurry up and buy it now. And there may be messages that we give them, probably less so in pet retail, that say, oh, you want to wait and buy this later. Although if you think it's going to be on sale next week, wait and buy it later, I guess would be the thing. So another thing about time is if you change the price of this dog food, your customer might buy it right now. They might buy it right now. They might buy it right now. They might buy it right now. But at some point, they're going to have the moment where they have more time to shop around for substitutes, to check out alternative places that they can get it. So you might think, I put through this price increase and I got away with it, and 6 months later, you don't have that customer. So as long periods of time pass, people have the opportunity to look for substitutes. And so you may want to be sure that you're positioning a substitute for them so that you don't lose them to somebody else. Okay, so that would be the other thing about elasticity over time. So let's go back and just kind of explore some of the issues of this. So this, this warning, but I'm going to give it to you anyway. If you're producing something that has a large number of close substitutes available, you are not going to have any pricing power at all. So you get pricing power from producing something that's not exactly like what everyone else is doing. And so if what's in your aisles is in Petco, PetSmart, Walmart, and at Chewy, you're not going to be able to charge higher prices. You're not going to be able to attain the margins that you need, as an independent pet retailer who's offering a lot of education and extra value benefits. So you've got to make what's in your store not have substitutes, or not have as close as substitutes, and certainly not have exactly perfect substitutes. The other point I would say, as we start on this, is to think about whether you've trained your customer to expect a sale. So I don't know what your patterns are. I don't know how you do sales. But if the way that you're doing sales is you have semi-annual 25% off everything in the store, that is not something that you want to do. And especially if you're starting to do it on every holiday weekend, if you're starting to do it regularly. Because what you're going to do is train your customers to say, if I wait and buy it later, I will pay less. So I don't have to pay this price for food. If I'm willing to go buy 3 bags at that time, I can get my food at a lower price. I can hurry up and wait and buy it later when it's on sale. And then when it is on sale, I'm going to stack that cart full of stuff so that over the course of the year, you've sold me the same stuff. You haven't sold me any different amounts of stuff. I've just timed my purchases as a wise consumer to get it at a low price. And I swear that I put Shop and Save out of business because, they were always doing 15 off 50 and all of these things, because I would only buy stuff that was on sale when I was getting those kind of kickbacks. And, Bed Bath & Beyond, I must have a stack of 6 or 7 of those 20% off coupons. And that means anything I buy at the store, if I don't get 20% off, it would be a weird purchase for me. So you don't want to do that to yourself. You don't want to do it so that you're selling the same stuff to the same people at lower prices because you've trained them to purchase it that way. And I'm not saying, the fairness thing says they've got to get some deals. They have to get some deals. I'm not suggesting that they shouldn't, but I think that you need to do it more carefully and cautiously. All right, so thinking about substitutes, the first kind of category is substitutes to you, your business. What's out there? What could people do instead? And how are you different than what they could do instead? So between you and others, you need to have product differentiation. I've done a whole session on how to differentiate yourself for Global Pet Expo in the past, but you have to find ways to make what you're doing different than what's out there. And that could be just simply what's in your aisles. You need to find and look around global and find some people whose channel is independent pet, that it's not in Petco, it's not in PetSmart, it's not at Chewy, it's not at Walmart, it's not all of your rivals, that they have to come to you to get it, that you're the place to get it in your area. Figure out services. I can't get my dog's nails trimmed on the internet, and I will go and be a loyal customer of somebody who's going to make nail trimming a less traumatic experience for me and my dog. And I know pet retailers that are doing free nail trims or very low cost nail trims and getting literally 100, 200 people, non-pandemic, got to give it that, non-pandemic, those numbers, but even now by appointment, in the pandemic times, that is drawing people into the store. So what can you do that's going to make an exciting experience for all these people who got their pandemic puppies? So the trend is definitely people doing things with their dogs. They're all wanting to get out. We're all wanting to go and experience things. What are you going to do when the world open up to make them want to bring their dog to your place? And when they bring your dog to your place, are you then positioning things so that they'll buy them while they're there? So unfortunately, competition is great for allocating society's resources and for getting consumers the best products at the lowest prices. It is really hard for firms. So firms get beat up. They have to be really good. They have to be able to do it at attractive prices, which means they need to be paying low cost just to stay in business. So you are out there in a very, very competitive landscape. And so you need to be really super careful about differentiating yourself from your substitutes. If there's not a perfect substitute, you get a higher price, and you need it. You need it to pay your bills. All right, within your aisles, again, one of the things we know from behavioral economics is too much choice is not a good thing. You don't want as much choice as is out there. I don't need 175 salad dressing choices. I just stopped seeing salad dressing. So when I walk into your treat aisle, and I worked for somebody who sold treats, so that's what we did. And it shocks me when I walk into people's treat aisle about how saturated that market is, how just incredibly overwhelming and saturated. And if that's what your shelves look like, people don't know what to buy. And often they'll just walk away. They're thinking, oh, I'll buy a treat for my dog. They kind of look at the aisle. It seems like too much work to figure something out, and they'll just walk away. So having less choices is actually helpful to help people make decisions. So you want to have less choices available. And then you want to carefully direct them to those choices that you most want them to make. And one way to carefully direct them is with price changes. You can have a sale, you can do something. Another way might be to have the sort of staff advice little tickets that says, hey, my dog really likes this, or remember, if you see quality before you see price, if you can draw their eye to something that's speaking to the quality or the stuff before you see the price, they're going to be more willing to pay whatever price they see. So think about really going through your aisles and curating things, getting rid of some things so that the people don't have as many choices that are kind of irrelevant. And obviously the things you want to get rid of are the things that don't sell well and are low margin, or that, that company's not supporting you. So if you don't have a company that's staying in independent and supporting your sales, think about not carrying it. That could be an option. The next insight is don't put a whole category on sale. You've lost all power of relative price when you put whole categories on sale. So we know that if a whole category changes in price, people are less reactive. So there's just not going to be that attracting somebody from one to the other if the whole category is on sale. So you might sell a few more bags of dog food this week because they're buying it on sale, but overall, you're not attracting people to dog food. So by putting all of your treats on sale, again, it's still an overwhelming aisle. I don't know which one to buy. I may not buy the one you most want me to buy. So think about, if you're going to increase pricing on a whole category, a small amount. Probably won't affect sales much. Be careful with dog food. But other than that, I think you could probably do that throughout your store. And it wouldn't probably affect sales very much. But again, you're not gaining that much net benefit from reducing a whole category. You really want to change some products prices, not all products prices. And then, again, as I think I said, that is my thing. Watch your margins. What are you going to put on sale? What's the margin? What are people going to buy? And we're going to talk about another aspect of elasticity here to think about what's the best thing to put on sale. So staples versus discretionary. People will buy staples all the time. We've already talked about some issues of why if it's your regular dog food, you might not want to change its price, but you just don't get that much extra sales by changing the price of staples. People buy what they buy because they need it. I'm not going to make my dog obese buying more dog food because it's on sale. I'm going to feed the dog the measured amount that I'm supposed to. I follow that rule. Not everyone does. All right. So store-wide sales don't really help you sell more dog food. They really don't. In the end, you sell more dog food at lower prices and less dog food at higher prices. So I would avoid store-wide sales for that reason. You can make it appear a sale, but there's different ways to do it. So I will warn you though, that if you decide, okay, she's right, I'm going to do this differently, everyday low pricing, if what you're counting is customers and if what you're counting is revenue, that's not going to look good. That comp is not going to look good over time. So last year when you had your 25% off sale, everyone showed up and they bought a bunch of dog food. So you had big customer counts and you had big revenue. But when you look at margin, that's what you've got to look at. So if you're going to track stuff over time, I'm not saying don't track your revenue or customer count, but you've got to focus on your number one thing needs to be your margin. What am I actually netting from all the work that I'm doing? I don't want to be working really super hard and wearing myself out to make money for all my vendors and to have my customers have a good experience and not have anything to pay my bills. So you've got to focus on profits and margin. All right, so the place that you might sell more or less by changing around prices is really those discretionary items, things that you don't have to have. My dog does not have to have a treat. My dog does not have to have this big expensive toy. My dog does not have to have this luxury collar. My cat does not have to have this crazy kitty condo. Those are the kinds of things that people are going to be much more price sensitive about. So if price is low, they will buy it. If price is higher, they will not buy it. And then again, by changing the price of just some things versus other things, you can direct people to what it is that you most want them to purchase. So people respond to relative prices, this versus that. That's how people make decisions. And again, people are going to be much more price sensitive about big ticket items, things that are more expensive. So if my dog is on a super premium food and I'm buying it from you regularly, that's an expensive item for me. And I'm going to know that price and I'm going to pay a lot more attention to that price. And so again, that's why price increases might not work very well in that case. But if it's a price cut, and again, dog food doesn't work because it's a necessity. I'm not buying more dog foods, getting more dogs because you have a dog food sale. So you got to think about something else. But if it's a price cut, you want to pick something where that price cut is significant in dollar terms. Your treats that cost $3, $4, $5 being on sale, that just doesn't get exciting to me. That's nothing that's going to do something. But if you've got these expensive collars and leashes, if you've got, some sort of hard good kind of thing that you're selling, that being on sale, I might not consider it normally, but if that has a 25% off sale or 50% off sale, maybe I would look at that. And so one of the thoughts that I had as you're thinking about this is, Christmas, let's think about Christmas and let's think about Christmas ahead of time and let's do some work with our vendors. So maybe when you bring in some things for Christmas, you pick some of those bigger things, but the very first price that you place on that is that list price that you're never going to charge. So that the first time you bring it out on the market in that sort of Christmas shopping season, you're able to say, we've got this great Christmas thing and it's 25% off and you're saving it. And you maybe still have some room to lower price even further as you go through the season. And you can especially work with vendors, or you can especially time your buying so that maybe you have some of these bigger ticket items where people are going to be more price sensitive, so that one of your strategies can be having a discounted price so that you'll sell more of those products. So think about that as a possibility. And again, I might not buy a leash, I might not buy a treat, I might not buy a birthday cake, I might not buy, these are things I might not buy normally. Have to buy my dog food, have to buy my cat litter. Okay, those are things I have to buy. So those are ones I'm not going to change very much. And I especially don't want to raise price if it's a big ticket item, because then I'm going to really irritate people. All right, so what's your ideal Black Friday sale? So Black Friday sale is all about price elasticity of demand. So when you see those Black Friday ads, that thing that is front center on that Black Friday ad is something that is super, super elastic. People are super reactive to price changes because we put all these sort of factors together. All right. So obviously it's temporary. You have to show up at this time. And I have information ahead of time that tells me I have to show up that day and I'm going to get this great deal. So you can't do it at the last second. It's not going to work as well. You got to do it where they have information so they can move their purchasing. I'm going to move a purchasing act to that moment where there is this temporary price cut that I can take advantage of. Okay. When you look at a Black Friday ad, it is not all TVs on sale. All right. It is not, all laptops on sale. It's not all groceries on sale. They're not doing 25% off on Black Friday. That's not what they're doing. What they're doing is they're saying this one particular item, and it's the Emerson, it's the 54-inch screen TV, and it's this model number. If you show up and you buy this item at this moment, you will get this tremendous price savings. Okay, so it's for a very specific, there's a huge category of products, but the one that's on sale is this very specific product, which is making people want to buy that product instead of others. So you're directing people to this thing. And in general, they have worked with their vendors so that they're not losing money on that. They've gotten special deals. They said they're going to highlight. And so I think personally, it would be better for you when you're thinking about discounting your dog food to think about discounting one at a time, one brand at a time, your 5 favorite ones in your store, one at a time. And so that you can work with the vendor or work on your buying. So you're buying it on a show special or something so that you're not hurting your margin when you put that dog food on sale. And your customers of the dog food feel that award, they know that they're going to get it, the regular people who buy that. And by highlighting that one dog food, maybe you'll get some people off the others. Maybe you'll get some people off the junk ones. Maybe you'll get some people off the brands that you don't want. So you want to be highlighting one specific brand because then relative to other brands, it looks more affordable. So that's really important. And again, it is nice if that price change is large in dollar terms, that you're saving $20, you're saving $10, you're saving, you're not going to probably be able in your store to have the ones where you're saving hundreds of dollars, because my guess is, you don't have products that cost that much. But if you do, if you have some really big ticket items in your store, then those are the ones you want to think about. Can I get a discount? Can I work with my vendor? Can I do a good buy so that I can keep that same margin, but offer this deal to my customers? Okay. So big ticket item, discretionary, temporary, very brand specific. Those are all the things that go into a great Black Friday special. So cross price elasticity is different. So now we are looking at this relative to that, this and that. So cross price elasticity, we're still talking about changing a product's price. It's still a change in a product's price, but now we're looking at how that product's price change affects the sales of substitutes and complements. So if my product is on sale, people are going to buy it instead of a substitute. If my product is more expensive, people are going to look at those substitutes instead of it. So again, that's why you have to be super careful about how you do this, because it's all relative. When I walk in the aisle, I'm looking at what one's on sale, what one's being highlighted for me, which one do I want to purchase. Complements are things that go along with something. So when you buy this also. And I think you probably are taking advantage to some degree of complements, but I want you to, again, think about very deliberately, what are you doing? Okay. So some of it's about positioning. How are we positioning things in the store? And some of it is about literally highlighting that price difference. Okay. And you want to be, when you're making choices, you want to be especially aware of margin. So grocery stores discount turkeys like crazy, because when you walk in the store to buy the turkey, you're going to buy a bunch of other stuff. Right. So they use that, whether it's a loss leader that they're actually losing money on, or whether they've gotten deals so that they're actually getting, they're getting what they need to get to cover that cost. They're putting that in because their expectation is if you come in to buy the turkey, you're going to buy the wine and these other high margin things. And they typically position some of those things right by the turkey, those foil pans. But when you go to buy a turkey, it's there. So I was walking through Walmart this weekend, and I wasn't buying toys, but I walked by the toy aisle. I'm a grandmother, so I noticed it was the toy aisle, but I wasn't buying toys. One of the things on our list was batteries. And so my husband looked at the end of the toy aisle, and there was all these batteries, and he's like, oh, here's some batteries. Well, the batteries were all of a certain brand. All right. It wasn't the battery center. The battery center is at a different part of the store. And that's actually where we bought our batteries, because I know these things. But looking at this aisle right next to where you pick up those electronic devices is the batteries that you need to go with it. So if you're having nail trims, if you're having some kind of event that you're driving people into your store, you're going to want to put that thing that you most want them to buy while they're there right next to it. So my dog just got its nails trimmed. I can buy this treat. I can buy this toy. And the one that you put there, you want to be the high margin one. You want it to be the high margin one that you want to sell more of, or that you think if people got on it, they would stay on it. So you want to be very, very deliberate about how you place and position things relative to one another. So let's think about this ideal sale. So I don't know that I have my little chart as good as it could be, but let's think about an ideal sale. I'm going to have something on sale where I expect a big reaction. All right. So I expect a big reaction. I expect people to want to buy a lot more of it, because that would be, because I'm selling at a lower price. I need people to buy a lot more units for this to come out okay, even revenue rise. Okay. So that's ideally what I want. And so that will start my chain. I put something on sale and I'm going to sell more of it. I'm going to sell less of something else. So the reason you're selling more at low prices is because something else you're selling less of. You're selling less of something else. So the substitute sales are going to go down. And if you've done your work right, the complement should go up. The complement sales should go up. So that should be our chain. So we have a sale, we sell less of some substitutes, we sell more of some complements. So the ideal chain is that you want to put something on sale that you still have some margin. Like there's still some margin there for you, that is okay. Or you don't make much money off of it anyway. So if you don't make a lot of money off it anyway, and you give up what little bit you make, it's not contributing a lot to the bottom line. So you could pick something that there's enough margin to spare that you have, that you still have some margin left when it's on sale, or something that, you're kind of doing it as a loss leader. I don't make any money on it anyway, but I'm going to put it on sale. But you want to pick the one that's going to not cannibalize the sales of your substitute that you make a ton of money on. So don't put something on sale that makes you sell less of something that you make more money off of. So that's not going to be helpful to your bottom line. And it would be especially nice if this thing we put on sale let us sell this complement that is a high margin complement. I've got it positioned and it's something that I actually make money on. And you're not putting the complement on sale. You're not changing the price of the complement. I am buying the complement because so my dog was this good dog and did what I asked them to do at this activity. So now here's this treat. I'm going to buy this treat, or I'm going to buy this toy. Okay. And if you want to do, if you want that to be, they have not paid for that first service, then maybe you do have a sale on that to kind of do that. But in general, the complements price is unchanged. You're buying this thing because it's cheaper. And so now you're buying more of the complement to go along with it. So again, my highlight is, pick something that you're not ruining your margins by selling it. Okay. So cannibalization is where somebody buys this instead of that. And when they buy this instead of that, and that's why I think you typically see people reducing all of their dog food at the same time. I don't want to lose the sales of this one to that one. But I think if you did a series of sales over the course of the year versus a 25% off sale or 50% off or whatever it is that you do once or twice or 3 times a year on holidays, but you strategically had still your dog food on sale, but you did a brand. You did a brand at a time. You position it so that when it's time to be on sale, it's the end cap, it's the front of the store. So you're not necessarily stealing people from the other high ones you want to sell, but it's not in the aisle. It's not just like it's in the aisle that you have to go back and discover this. You're positioning, you're highlighting this featured brand. You're making people aware of why you really like this one, and you're giving them a discount on that featured brand. I'm a regular buyer of this other one. I know mine's going to be on sale in a month, that you're going to feature mine at some point in the future. So I'm not buying this one because I'm already happy with what I have and my dog likes it. But maybe some of those people who are buying junk food, maybe some of those people who are buying, something from you and then they're going to Walmart to buy the rest of it, maybe in featuring these brands that you particularly like and that you make margin on and that they can't get someplace else, maybe that's going to then draw some people into your store. So instead of, discounting a whole category, pick ones that you want to highlight and show them relative to others, and especially be careful about which ones you pick in terms of how is it going to affect these other sales. Okay, so you don't want to put something on sale that makes you sell less of something you made a lot of money on and really doesn't allow you to sell any extra complements. That's not helpful. You're just getting less dollars per unit. So maybe that's a closeout. Maybe that's an item to consider taking out of the choice set, but otherwise you don't want to do that. So here's some kind of end applications that I would say, and there's so much more we could do with this, and there's so many fun examples. So do follow up with me and let me know if you try any of these things and what you think. First thing is, don't just put everything on sale. You completely lost the power of relative price. You know, I will buy more because it's on sale and I'm your regular customer, but that's not going to bring you a whole lot of new customers. And I'm not going to go get another dog because you're having a sale. So you got to think about that. So when you do sales, we all focus on revenue. We all focus on customer count. It feels great when you're having the sale and everybody's in and it's super busy. And, and maybe you have some other agendas, and so that's okay. But the reality is you need to focus on profit. And I have a friend who has, I don't think they have 6 stores. And the most profitable store is not the store that has the most revenue and the highest customer counts. It's not. The most profitable store is the store that does the best buying, that they buy their things at low prices and sell them at high prices and they make profits. And so in terms of actually paying for staff and salary and equipment and buildings, that's what you got to focus on. So it's so easy to get caught up in customer count. It's so easy to get caught up in revenue. You need to focus on margin and profits. Okay. And when you're doing sales, make sure that it's serving that bottom line. It's not just serving the revenue goals and the sales goals. So think about positioning in your store, and I'm sure you do, but but think about it. Like if I'm having this event, and so one of the things I think about in the post-pandemic world is get some food trucks there and have Taco Tuesday and have something for dogs too. And maybe it's not Taco Tuesday. There's sushi for dogs and cats, so maybe you can have a sushi truck come. But do some things that are fun. Do some things that keep people out with their pets. I've often thought about Oktoberfest or MyFest things because there is beer-related products for dogs and for cats, and you could have some fun, and make sure that whatever you're positioning is something that you have good margin on. So you're having fun. People can get a beer, they can get a brat, and they can get these squeaky beer toy for their dog, and they can get the beer biscuits from. I could say names of companies that you could go to, but there's definitely, if you private message me, I can give you some ideas of some independent pet companies that would help you on any of these things. Samples and other things to support you. You really want to make those vendor relationships so you can afford to do these sales and have some fun with them. So physically, where is it? But then also, how am I doing it relative to this? So go through your dog food aisle, pick your 4 best brands that are not available anyplace else, and then choose which one to highlight at a time. So highlight one at a time by selling and by positioning versus having the whole category on sale, and you'll get more. Raise low prices to the nearest 99th. People will probably not notice. Okay, so just raise them across the board, and a whole category. If you've got treats and they're all relatively, especially treats up at the thing or bakery items or something like that, raise a whole category. If you don't feel comfortable doing it on an individual one, then maybe come up with something that people might buy multiple. They might buy 2 or 3 or 4, perceive they're getting this discount because that digit's a little bit different when they do it that way. All right, so what are your least profitable categories? What do you have the least variation in sales? Maybe raise that whole thing. Take that whole category of fish supplies and raise it 5%. Just raise the whole category 5%. So you're not doing one relative to the other. You still need to highlight some brands and things at times with sales, but maybe make those sort of staple necessities, whole categories, raise it by a small margin, and that will ultimately go to your bottom line. Okay. When you're doing a sale, experiment. You can't change everything at once. So I will tell you that when there's 4,000 things going on, we don't know what caused what. You're never going to know. But choose a particular one to experiment with and see over time, what happens when you do these experiments, and think about those substitutes and complements. And when you do have to raise prices because cost of rent or something has gone up, just find a way to protect your best customers. So maybe you make it so that if you're in my loyalty club, you get to buy it at the old price. Maybe if you're in my loyalty club, I give you extra information and stuff about it so that you can be prepared and stock up. But you need to find a way for those necessity purchases of dog food, expensive, loyal customers. You need to protect them as much as you can from price increases, and do something else instead, maybe, of raising those prices. So I really wish you success. I know that it is difficult and challenging in this market. I think there's been some good things for some stores from the pandemic, and there's been terrible things for stores from the pandemic. But we are looking at coming out on the other side. And so it's going to be a good time to experiment with in-store things as people are able to get back into stores. So thanks for your time. Please reach out to me on my profile. Bye.